Good evening. This is Isaac with Programmable Audio for episode 12 of Mix with a Noob. Tonight we're going to look into what I call EQ slicing. It's the term I gave it. And we're also going to talk about automation and do a little bit of automation. I do plan on doing another video in the series, maybe not the next one, but somewhere before the end of the mix, that will go a little more deeply into automation, but I'm going to touch on it tonight. So to begin the episode, again, I'm going to just throw something personal out there. This time I'm going to make it related to music, because that's what the whole point of all this is it's an audio-based channel. I wanted to talk briefly about my biggest influences, and I go back to the first two bands that made me really like heavier music or rock and roll. The main band that I kind of worshipped as a teenager was Rage Against the Machine. And anyone that knows me is sick of their music. And I think I kind of made myself sick of it too, in a way. I listened to them nonstop. There was probably a period of about 3 years where it was all I listened to. I learned a bunch of their songs on the bass. So if you're listening to, because in this episode you're going to hear a bunch of bass playing from me. So if you hear a little bit of that influence, that's why, because I taught myself at least a dozen of their songs from start to finish. And I certainly I gave every song they ever wrote a try on the bass. Some of them I didn't memorize, a lot of them I did. I can still play Bomb Track and Bulls on Parade and what's the other one? Killing in the Name of. Those three I had memorized and played well. So anyway, the other major influence on me, which is they're kind of opposites, or they don't fall in the same vein. The other one was Tom Petty. I bought his what was it called? Into the Great Wide Open, I think maybe was the album title, but it had Free Fallin', and that track, Into the Great Wide Open. And there was one track on there that really, really hit me when I was young. I think it was maybe 12 or 13. Excuse me. Oh, sorry about that. There's a song on that album. The line from it was, "Then a great big man goes up for sale. He becomes his own invention." I don't remember the title of the song, and I should have looked it up. I'm really bad at this. I never look stuff up. Actually, we could look it up right now. Why don't we do that? Let's just go look it up. There's my email. Let's do Tom Petty. I don't know why I don't do this sometimes. I guess because it's a waste of time. A big old man. Big old man. It should find it just by the lyrics. Goes up for sale. All the Wrong Reasons is the name of the song. So this song, for whatever reason, let's see if it's, this, okay, so the album is Into the Great Wide Open. It came out in 91 when I was 11. I don't think I immediately took to it. I think I got the album, I think, after a couple of singles had come out, maybe 3 or 4 singles had come out, and it had made its way around among people I knew and my parents knew. So I think I got it probably in 92 when I was 12. And that song, for some reason, All the Wrong Reasons, grabbed me. And to this day, it's it's just so simple and powerful, and the beat, and the way he sings, and the lyrics are kind of vague and mysterious, but they're really solid. The rest of the album is really good too, and the singles he put out were really catchy and great. But for rock, he's kind of lighter rock. He's he's not really hard hitting. So compared to Rage Against the Machine, those two artists are not, they're not really in the same vein at all. But those probably are my two biggest influences. If I go to write a song, when I go to make music, those are the two I point to. Okay, so let's get started. So this EQ slicing thing, what I'm going to do is, this is kind of like a forensic thing you do. While I was mixing earlier, I came into the song and I began playing, because I've been doing all of this on headphones so far. So I took some time to play the mix through my speakers. I have 2 sets of speakers, and I will take a photo afterwards and put it in the video, hovering up here somewhere, up there maybe. I'll just have the photo sitting there to show. I have some Mackies and I have some really inexpensive computer, they're Logitech, just really cheapies, and I have an A/B switch, which is really a cool thing. So I was playing the mix and popping it back and forth between the two, the actual monitors and the computer speakers, which they say you want to listen on a inexpensive set of speakers. You want to do headphones, good monitors if you have them, the best quality you can afford. Crappy computer speakers, even like little tiny speakers, and then of course phone, laptop, and car. Like as many sources as you can get will help you fine tune the mix. So I was doing that, and what I noticed right away in the bass was that there's an issue, and it wasn't really coming through on the headphones so much because they don't go down to that low of a frequency, but on the speaker it's this thing on the bass where I think I must be accidentally hitting a string out of place, and it makes this kind of like bell sound or ringing sound. And in the headphones it actually sounds really cool, but on the speakers, when you have the speakers turned up, it's hitting up against other stuff in the mix, and it's really blowing it out. So let's listen for a second here. I believe I have it right where the sound is. So when I hit play here, after a measure or two, you should hear in the bass, and I just have the bass soloed. Let me turn the kick bus off here. So you're just going to hear bass, and listen for that kind of bing. I think it's one of my fingers, my pinky or something, slapping against a string where it shouldn't be. And that's just, excuse me. That's my playing style. I switch between slapping and plucking. So maybe as I transitioned between two, I was sloppy and I hit a string. And while I was tracking, I heard it and I didn't say, oh, that was not good. Which is, that's the noob in me is a lot of times when we're tracking, I play it back and I go, yeah, that fits in there. It sounds okay. So here we go. There it was. All right, so it's only happens once, but it's really bad. Let's hear it. I think it's right here. Yeah, it's right there. It's ringing out right there. So let me turn my snap back off. If I place it right in the middle of the measure, you'll hear it. Right there. All right, so I'm going to turn this loop on. I'm going to turn the volume down just briefly because I'm going to loop it and it's probably going to get really obnoxious in your ears. So as a courtesy, I'm just going to turn the volume down. All right, so there it is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the EQ on this track on, and we're going to apply, so we're going to do re-EQ, RIA EQ. And this is a trick I saw. I've seen this on several different videos. I don't recall a specific channel that I found it on. I wish I could attribute it to someone, but the first place I saw this was on drums, like kick drum and stuff. So what you want to do is set a really narrow bandwidth. Just choose band. Don't do a low shelf or high shelf. Just choose regular band. Set this to 1/10 of an octave. Okay, this measurement down here, you see where it says oc? That's an octave. So you're telling this point how wide to be based on octaves, which are, an octave is when a note repeats. So from a low A to a high A, 12 half steps away, that's an octave. And the whole music scale is all built around octaves. So you're telling it 1/10 of an octave width, which is very narrow. It's almost as narrow as it can get. I mean, you can go, 10 steps below that? I don't think it goes into, it goes tens, hundreds. I don't think it goes into thousands. Let me see here. Well, actually, maybe it does. Huh. Well, okay. So anyway, well, actually, when I move off of it there, it corrected to just 0. Interesting. That's really weird. Let's see if I just put like a bunch of zeros. Well, I mean, it's still, yeah, I think actually, yeah, 1/100th of an octave, I think, is actually the limit here, I think. But anyway, we're going to do 1/10 of an octave, which is sufficiently narrow enough that it won't disturb too many other frequencies around it, but it allows us to do what we need to do. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hit play again, and you're going to hear the loop, and I know it's obnoxious, and I'm sorry. We should fairly quickly be able to find where this is ringing out really bad just by sweeping back and forth. And because it's boosted, it's really going to ring out, and we should hear like a, chirping, screeching. You hear this comes across as different things depending on the instrument. Sometimes it sounds like a pinging sound. So here we go. Okay, what we actually want to do is probably find exactly where that note is. I think that's it right there. Yeah, that's it right there. It's a sharp little guy right here. And what we can actually do is, using automation, we could actually get rid of this. I mean, we could slice it out if we want. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So what I'm going to try to do is EQ it out. Or just dampen it with EQ and see if that does the trick. Okay, see, as I slide this around, you should be hearing like pinging and things. It sounds pretty cool. Like I hear like ghost noises. There's one. It's where it's really sharp, because as you sweep it, you are hearing kind of like different sounds here and there, but when you hear that, you'll hear a distinct ping sound, almost like a sonar blip or something. And you could actually use this and hold down control to do this really fine tune. Okay, so right there. And I'm going to stop that immediately because it's obnoxious in my ear, and I'm sure it is for you. So we've isolated it, and now all you do is just flip the gain so that it's cut now. And you can't go too far. Well, actually, I guess if you go to infinity, see, it looks like if you go like really deep, you're actually cutting across all these other frequencies. And this has to do with complementary tones, which is a topic that I don't fully quite understand. I know that if you make cuts to one frequency, you're actually affecting all the other, every frequency at half or double that. So that's why it has like a curve to it. So what I suggest is put this gain just like around, I mean, you could go -10. It's interesting how when you flip it all the way to infinity, though, it goes back narrow. So let's try that, and I'll hit play again. And I'm going to bypass it now, and let's see the difference. So here it is with the EQ slicing or slice applied. And here it is bypassed. All right, so it's not that dramatic, but we can find more. So I'm going to add another point, okay? It doesn't matter which points you use. You could actually, let's just turn these off. We could actually use number 3. Let's delete number 5, remove band. These controls down here are handy. Add a band. You can have as many as you want across here. You could have, 30. It would probably get cluttered and confusing, and also these tabs up here correspond to the different points if you don't want to click directly on them. All right, so let's use number 3, and again, we're going to bring this down to 1/10 of 1 octave. So that's 0.1. And as you saw, you could go more narrow, but this is what I've seen several different times. It seems to work for people, so I'm going to go with that. And again, we start with it boosted, and we start sweeping around. And as I said, I apologize about the loud noise, the irritating sound, but this is how you do this. And it's disabled, so it's not doing anything. Okay. Okay, so I'm not hearing anything awful here. There might be one somewhere in there. Okay, there we go. We're getting close to one. All right, I'll stop it for a second. I'm pretty sure there's going to be one right in here. So I'm going to switch down to here again and use control to fine tune. Okay, there's one. And these, the only thing I can tell you, at first these were hard for me to find in here, but after a while, what you start to notice is that it goes from being having a tonal quality, like continuous flowing sound to a more percussive sound. And that's all I can say. And whether it's high or low, that percussive sound thus changes. This, to me, has like a chisel on stone or something, a chisel on, metal on some other hard material sound to it. Like, or maybe like what the sound the hammer makes when it hits a chisel. It's like this extremely sharp and percussive sound. So again, once you've zeroed in on it, you just flip the band. If we go to negative infinity, it's nice and narrow here. And I wonder, let's do this one as like a 0.01 and just look. Yeah, so you could do it ultra narrow. With it being that narrow though, it's really not guaranteed that you're sitting right on top of that bad frequency. I think that's why they recommend going no lower than 1/10 of an octave, because that narrow of a slice, you're almost not going to be doing anything. All right, so let's look for one more in the lower. This drop down here, I haven't mentioned this yet, but you can actually switch the type of cue this is, so we can switch this to band, because it's by default it's set to low shelf, which you usually want to start EQing, and we could actually just because we're going to have a low shelf on the main bus, on the bass bus, right? Actually, we didn't go that sharp on the low. That's usually what I like to have it more like that, at around 40 or so, right there. Shouldn't change the sound too much because of what our listening environment. If we had a sub, it might. I don't have a sub. All right, so I'm gonna change this to band, and again, 0.1, and we're gonna flip it back up. And then here we go again. I'm going to try to do this as quick as I can. I'm sorry about the atrocious noise. That's what we're trying to actually get rid of. And as you approach the area where we've already discovered one, you're going to get some of the complementary frequencies from that coming in, I believe, is what you hear. So it would be kind of pointless to make another cut directly this close to this one. We could just make this one a little wider. Kind of has a cool effect to it. You could use some modulation and make the change to this. Oh, okay, I think we're getting close to one. See, now it's starting to sound like a beep. Where's that beep? There we go. Okay. Hear that? That should be clear to hear. That's a beeping sound. That doesn't belong in there. We want to get rid of that. So we'll just flip the gain. We'll go to negative infinity. All right, so we'll do, let's see. Now the true test is, let's expand our window out so we're not listening to, a quarter of a note, a quarter of 1/4 note, whatever it is. And, all right, here we go. All right. I don't know if that's that evident to you. But I can tell right away that we kind of took the air out of that note. We truncated it. We decapitated it a little. It's still in there, okay, but it doesn't have like as awful of a ring anymore. Let's listen to it in the whole mix. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I hope you could tell the difference. In fact, let's there's a good chance you won't be able to tell the difference depending on what kind of device you're listening on. But in my headphones, because I had heard it so many times earlier today, probably 5 or 6 times in a row, and went, ooh, that's bad. Now it sounds a lot cleaner. And the next step would be to unplug my headphones and turn the speakers on, which is really pointless in the tutorial. You'll get sound coming in through the mic, but it doesn't serve you. Here we go. Put the volume back up. I think I had this at -6, which should be about the same for all my videos. -6. And I listened, by the way, I turned everything up. Part of the reason why I have decent speakers is so I can really crank it up and listen to that low end and see if it's all like just flubbing and bad. And it kind of was. There were some parts that were really bad. I mean, the low end is sounding pretty tight because of the different things we've done. So here we go.
For so very long, live through one another. We will battle strong. They're whipping together.
Yeah, that's what we were hoping to do. Or wait, no, that was off. Okay. Wow.
For so very long.
Let's do this. I'm gonna lower everything but the bass. Actually, how much room do we have in the bass here? I'm gonna boost the bass to 0 dB. It's at -4 right now. I'll just have to remember to bring it back to 4. The bass is going to really stand out right now. Let's listen to it once without these cuts because we have the EQ plugin bypassed. Notice it's unchecked here. The other way, of course, would be to toggle it on and off here. So now it's off. We'll check it there. Okay. We'll use this as our toggle.
For so very long, live through one another. We will battle.
So that was without it. And now here we go with these EQ cuts, and let's hear the difference.
For so very long, live through one another.
Yeah, in my earphones, that almost disappears. It's almost gone, which is amazing. That's what I want. So let's solo it again. Let me make sure. I'm going to bring this back to -4 because that's just way too much bass, even for me. I mean, it sounds okay, but it's really drowning. Like it really steps on the guitar pretty bad. Okay, -4. Almost exactly -4. Doesn't have to be right on it, but close. There we go. Okay. Now it's just like a little whine. And we do have I have some rumble going on too that I need to work on. Yeah, that bass is rumbling really low, which, you want it to, but not to the point where it makes your speakers like flub or fuzz out, because that's unpleasant to a listener's ear and they'll turn it right off. All right, so the thing I wanted to also show was automation. And what I mentioned was that we could actually get rid of this note completely just with like a really precise automation cut, like just lowering the signal right as that happens and then returning right away. And the listener may not even hear it. So let's bypass that the EQ cuts we did. So there it is. And I hope you really can hear that. It sounds like it almost sounds like a bell rings and then there's like a whine to it. And that's unpleasant. So automation in Reaper is very powerful. And in other software, there are... I've as far as I've heard, Reaper doesn't have every single feature that other pieces of software do. Pro Tools being the big, the 800-pound gorilla on the block, so to speak. So what I've read this and heard that the tools that for automation for Reaper are not as full featured as other software, but there's a ton in here that you can do, and this stuff is amazing. And one thing about automation, what automation means is that you're going to set something that changes throughout the entire track without you having to move a button or make slices, or it's a way to do like really smooth, accurate changes and have them stay permanently in the track. Okay, so you're automating changes, and we just call it automation. So what we're going to do here, we're actually going to do volume. This is one of the most simple things you can do. So we just turn this on. Let me back out because I probably went too fast. So here's the automation button. This is what it looks like in the default skin. That's something I haven't mentioned. I use the default skin. I got used to using it. I like it. It's simple, straightforward. I've tried other skins. I just could never pick one that I really liked. So here's the button. If you hover over it, it says track envelopes / automation. It tells you what mode it's in. Automation mode, trim / read. Okay, so we're gonna click on this, and what we have anything that you add to the, if you add a plugin here, it pops up in this box. So if we had 10 plugins here, this box would be huge. It would take up the whole screen almost. But since we only have one, and we also have our main track envelopes here, we also have some sends, so we can actually do some things to sends here, which is pretty cool. I haven't actually messed with that. That's an interesting thought. Actually, that might be a new feature that I did not notice, because I don't recall seeing send envelopes before. All right, so the very basic one we're going to do, and this is just to give you like the very first, if this is the first time you've heard of animation or seen it, if you're progressing through these videos from the beginning, this will teach you a very basic, simple way to use automation. So we turn volume on, and what you notice right away is that we get a lane. We get a lane that pops up below the track. You have controls over here. You have this toggle on and off. Or actually, I'm sorry, that's an arm for recording. This one actually toggles it on and off. So if you had nothing in there, if you had if you hadn't added any points yet, this just like completely turns it off. It's the same as checking and unchecking that. Okay, I'll stop doing that, sorry. Here we have, what is this slider for? Okay, this one lowers and raises the overall volume, which can be handy. And then we have some options here. Hide envelope, move to media lane, or clear envelope. If you move to media lane, this one can be very useful because you can see you can see it over the note you want to actually deal with. Okay, so is it right here? Yeah, I think it's this sharp guy right here. Yeah, that's it. And if you want to be sure, do a little tiny selection, leave your loop on, and you'll hear it go bang, 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 bang. Whoa, okay, that was too short of a selection there. That sounded like digital grinding. Okay, here we go. Yeah, again, digital grinding. I guess we have to go, almost to the next peak for it to sound like anything. Yeah, there it is. That's exactly where it is. All right, so let's just say we want to take the nose off this guy, because that note does color. It rides out here. So if we completely remove all of this, which we can, then there's going to be like a blank space in the bass sound. So we just want to take the nose off of this, just kill this transient, and see how well that cleans it up. All right, so my automation now is over my waveform, so I can see exactly where I want to put this stuff. Or if we go here, where was it? Oh, okay, so this is a new moment for me, because now that it's in the lane, how do I put it back? Let's see. Show envelope in lane. Okay, there we go. So to toggle it back, you have to right-click over it. So here it is move to media lane, and then if you want to put it back to its own lane, you right-click over it, and it's show envelope in lane. So it doesn't matter where you put it. Having it down below here oftentimes is easier because it's less cluttered. It's all up to you. I'm actually going to build this one over the media item. Move to media lane. All right, so the first thing you want to do, hold down shift, and that lets you put a new one. If you're hovering over and you hold shift, you see a little arrow, and it says insert envelope point, drag to move, and it's going to give you the stats for right where you are. It's telling me I'm at negative 0.9 dB, so I'm not quite at 0 dB, which is because I think that's because I moved that little knob. So let's go back to show envelope in lane. I think it's because I moved this. Yeah, ooh, I don't know why it added a point. I did not want it to add a point. Oh, okay, that's interesting. That is really interesting. So if you have a selection open, let's see if double-clicking here. Wow, that's powerful. That's a new thing I didn't know about. Wow, that's a good noob moment. So if you have, it looks like if you have a selection window going up here, which is these arrows, We didn't talk about that ever, but that's what that is. It's a selection window, and you double click that little arrow or the little knob, which we have to make it show it again by right clicking. And that's probably the 10th time I've done that. All right. So if I double click this, it's going to put a point at the edge of each of your selection, at the leading edge and the trailing edge. So watch this. Boom. There's points there now. Oh, it actually added more. Oh, that's weird. Did I have some in there? No. Huh. Click once and it puts 2 points. I guess that... Okay, so that's so that you can drag... It looks like that's so you can do exactly what I want to do. You can drag this down. And you don't actually have to make this like a complete dip like that. You can do anything here that makes it... And, as you try to clean this up, you can change this so it sounds okay. Because you'll notice if we take the volume completely down, like I said, it'll be disruptive to your ear. The bass, the writing out of the note will go away. And all right, let's see here. All right, I guess we're gonna have to give an extreme example of that. Actually, maybe it isn't so bad because it's interesting. All right, if you double click over one of these points, it's gonna set it to 0, which is handy. Because you don't really want... Oh, how did we get all this different points? Okay, I have a whole bunch of different points here because maybe my selection window, I think. I'm going to click on each of these and just delete them. I don't want them. And you have to be careful about that so that... See how that I had that dip? If I had that in my mix, my bass would have been really quiet all at the beginning. So be careful about this. It looks like I had been adding points the whole time like a noob. All right, so let's do a really drastic one. Let's drag this out like this. Okay, so you can see we've killed it. Let's actually... I don't think we didn't, because I still heard it, so I didn't go far back enough. Let's do this. Let's go back a little tiny bit further. And we have this at... Yeah, these are both at negative infinity. So it essentially mutes it. Yeah. Yeah, so let's put it back in the mix and just hear, because it's disruptive to the ear. It may not be terrible. No, see how bad that is? It takes all the guts out of just that moment of the song. You lose all the punch from the bass. All right, so like I said, that was an extreme example, so you could hear, if you put a big, big dip in there, what that does. So let's bring this back over to where it was. And again, if you adjust this, be careful of where you put it, and just double click to put it back to 0. So you're not making changes you don't want. So I think something like this might be fine, because by the end of this wave here, and right as we hit this next one, it returns to 0. Actually, no. See, I'm struggling with this. So I'm going to bypass it for a second. You just hit the little on-off button. Yeah, I don't know if... Okay, so maybe it's actually... This big guy is actually the note. And I think maybe the one that follows it, this one here, perhaps is that bell sound. It's really difficult to tell. And someone with a more experienced ear would probably know. But I'm guessing that's what we're hearing. Because if I move this back before this big one, we're losing that entire note. And that's not good. Yeah, see? Okay, and then again, another thing to do is you don't have to go all the way down to 0. So let's see here. We can do this like not as extreme. Okay, I'm hearing we have another issue over here, and it's very similar. Let's solo this again. Hear that? It's not as high pitched. It's not like it doesn't have a clang to it. But there's a ring out right there too. And let's see if the EQ takes care of that. It's hard to say. So I'm pretty sure what we're hearing is that I'm such a beginner. I mean, I've been playing the bass for a while, but I'm not a pro by any means, and especially recording. I've played out live a bit. Not, I don't want to say a ton, but so I can play in a live setting. But in the recording, I think what's happening is I'm hitting extra strings. Like the string I hits a second string, or my finger does. So that's really bad. If I could, I'd go back and do that, but I can't. We're way past the tracking phase. All right. So the other thing you could do is we could automate EQ on it. Let's see here. All right, so with a combination of the EQ and the automation turned on, we've sort of tamed that note. It's not quite as ringy. Ooh, be careful. I had snap turned on there, and it was snapping to that. You don't want that. When you're doing automation like this detailed, you want to have the snap off. All right, so that sounds okay to my ear, and let's hear it in the mix. Yeah, it's. I mean, you're losing that punch. I think if you don't know it's there, you won't care. It's fine. And one thing we could do too is, and I may actually consider doing, we could slice this completely out and pick a note from earlier and drop it in there. As long as you don't make it sound too artificial, you could do that. Just note replacement is a thing you can do when you're such a beginner as I am. All right, so we're going to add another lane. So we just open the box up again, and now we're going to come down. Here is the req we have on the bus, or actually on the track. So there it is. So we can affect any of these parameters using the automation. So let's turn on, let's see here. Which one do we want to try to... see if we can just visibly see if there's like a spike somewhere. A spike or like an area that really rides high for too long. Let's do it solo. That seems real low. I think it's in this area, if you can see with my mouse here, let's say between 200 and 700 or so. All right, so actually the way we want to do this, the way I want to do this now, try it. I'm going to add a second EQ. Let's place this at, I said it was between 2 and 7, so that's 500 distance, so we'll split the difference, so we'll go 450. Okay. Oops, not 4500. Okay, 450. And that's a pretty wide band. All right. So instead of using parameter modulation, because we're not side chaining, we're going to use automation. So you can see now that I added another plugin, it's over here now. Before I just had the 3, so I have a second req here. So what I'm looking for is that one that I set up for myself at the 450 hertz, and it was point number 2, band number 2. So let's look for that. And what we want to affect is the gain. So here it is, gain band 2. Okay, and actually we'll watch this because as this automation dips, this volume does dip. It's easier to see when you have it in a plugin. So all this does is add a second lane below it, and the more things you add, the more it just keeps adding lane after lane below it. If you start doing a lot of this, it clutters up your project. That's why they have this handy hide envelope. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the volume envelope. It's still there, but it's just hidden. Just tidies it up. All right, so this is our point, right? All right, so hover over the line again and look at your tooltip, and that's going to give you the info of where you currently are. So we're at negative 4 dB at 112. Why is that? 112. I thought gain band 2 is at 450. Yeah, or 437. Band 2. Huh. Okay, notice you can't, like, once you have the automation in place, it it corrects whatever you try to do here. So I'd have to just turn this off. Then you can affect it. And it's so weird that it's set to, I have it set here to 456. But when I have this automation, let me make sure I had the right one selected. All right, that might be another noob moment. We'll find out in a second. Turn your automation back on. And I want to affect the gain of band 2. So I turn this one on, gain of band 2. Oh, okay, so that number I'm looking at, it was a noob moment. So the way we read this is, it is set to to 0 dB, and that 112.4, that's the time. That's the time in the project out of the total time of the project? No, because as I move, that changes as well. 113, that's really interesting. 251. Oh, is it counting down? No, it's counting up. Huh. Counts down. Okay. Yeah, so it's I'm not sure that 112 what that means. Oh, selection. I'm not sure. Oh, it's where you are in the selection maybe. 111 out of the total distance from the beginning, I guess. That's interesting. Anyway, I'm not going to get too hung up on that, but the point of hovering over it is so that you know where your point, when you put your first point, like where you're putting it, where your plugin is set to. So we'll put a point in there, put a point in there, and then we'll put 2 in the middle. We could have used that handy trick I just learned a second ago, but I briefly forgot about it. All right, so we're going to make this take a big dip in the low end frequency here and see how that affects it. And like I said, we'll watch this work. We're going to turn the plugin on, and you'll watch as we pass over those points I just made. You'll see it in the plugin. You'll see the effect it does. It took that drastic dip. Now, it wasn't horrible. Let's bypass it. Enabled. It does sort of take the edge off. I have a feeling this is too wide of a band, perhaps. So let's try it more narrow. Let's try it. Let's cut it by half. Let's put it to 1 dB, 1 octave width. That seems to work. Maybe even more narrow. Let's see. What we can do is try that same trick where we're going to look for it. We're going to look for the irritating sound. So again, I'm sorry. I'm going to hit this. It's going to loop through and it's going to sound obnoxious at first. I apologize. Here we go. Oops. Turn your automation off. Noob moment. All right. Turn the automation off now. You can actually manually do this. I think we have it's too long. It needs to be shorter maybe for us to be able to hear it. And oh yeah, let me turn the master down, because last time I did, I just dropped it by 4, and I hope that helps in the tutorial. I'm sure it will. Okay. All right, so again, we're inside of our selection and we're looping it, so we're hearing that treble note over and over, and we're sweeping with the EQ to find where we can actually make a strategic cut, a slice in it, and then use automation to... All right, so this one's too wide, I think, and that's why nothing is jumping out. So let's do like what we should be doing and just go to a 10th. There's one. There's one. There's 2 like right next to each other. All right, so since I know there's 2 right there, I'm going to leave it near the lower one. I'm going to spread this out and then maybe move it in between the 2. All right, so we've identified a very harsh little area, and I think that's probably what it is. It's because those two notes should not be played together in that fashion. So they're kind of like they're really resonating off each other badly. It's like if you've ever heard two things start to resonate, and then they kind of almost have like a little feedback, or I guess it would be kind of like a feedback effect where the two frequencies are kind of amplifying each other briefly. It's hard to describe what I'm talking about, but sometimes metal things do it, or glass. So anyway, let's hear what this sounds like once we make the cut. And so we're going to drop the gain. Let's leave it a little bit wider, something like that. All right, so that sounds better. Yeah, see, that just took the edge off. I'm going to bypass it. It's very subtle. All right, so that's how you use EQ slicing to find trouble areas in sound and kind of give it a band-aid, like patch it up. So those are two different options, EQ slicing, and then you can use automation. The power of automation is that now the rest of the track does not have that EQ change that I made. It's all just normal. So now I can actually if I find that same treble sound in other parts, which I really hope I don't. Let's see, it'd have to be the chorus, I guess. Here. Yeah, there's some muddiness right there. Ugh, that's just me like mashing the crap out of two of the strings. It's like a growl. Oh, that's awful. So let's just try, just for the heck of it, and see if we just do that same exact kind of cut right here, if it instantly cleans it up. It might. We might get lucky here. Let's see. Yeah, this one I believe may need note replacement. So that might be our next project, is to just slice that growling garbage out and replace it with, let's see if this is a clean one. That might not be so clean. This one might be clean. Ugh. See, I'm starting to become very critical of my own playing. I almost can't even hear a good clean one. That was okay. I'm trying to do like a tricky pattern, a da 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 da, and then come back and hit the low E. And I think I'm just like flubbing the low E. Anyway, if it's that bad, if it's so bad that EQ slicing and some type of automation can't fix it, you could do note replacement, which is kind of cheating in a way. People would say leave those warts in there, leave that ugliness in there. I might. I'm not really sure yet. I just need to play more precisely next time I record, that's all. And if I play back a take and I hear something like that, I have to go, whoa, that's not going to cut it. You're going to have to spend like an hour slicing and doing all this fixing rather than 5 seconds or, another 5 minutes of tracking time to get a good take and be done with it. And so that's the difference between an amateur and a professional in a way. Professional producer would not have let a musician leave the studio that day with a take like that and go, oh yeah, we'll work with that. We'll make it work. So that's it. Thank you for sitting through episode 12 of Mix with a Noob. My name is Isaac, and tonight we covered EQ slicing. We covered basics of automation. And please subscribe to my channel, to our channel. We have more videos starting to roll out. Go over and check out our. My partner Josh made a great drum pad cloning type thing, drum rack from Ableton, so that you can set up a bunch of samplers that are driven by your touchpad, which kind of mimic the capabilities of the Ableton combination of touchpad. Launchpad is like the brand, the big expensive one, and then there's the touchpad knockoff by Behringer, and so he programs the keys so it works in Reaper, which typically if you plug it in it doesn't just work, which it's a great video. I'm going to actually use it to set up my touchpad so I can get some fake drums going, not for this mix of course, but for some other side projects of ours. So yeah, please go check out some of our other videos. We really appreciate you guys watching. Have a great night.